This video features spoilers for Resident Evil 1, since 2 is a direct sequel to it, so here's your spoiler bumper if you're prepared for that. If you're not, go play Resident Evil 1. It's pretty awesome, but if you either don't care or played Resident Evil 1 before, well then, here we go. Resident Evil 2 originally came out on the PlayStation in 1998, but since the GOG port, it's based off the PC release, which came out in 1999, and there are many stories in this game's development, such as the fact of there's a whole different idea that was scrapped and made as the fans dubbed Resident Evil 1.5, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to get into Resident Evil 2 as it is, and also being, I believe, the first game directed by Hideki Kamiya and everything. So let's just get into Resident Evil 2, and I won't be comparing it to its remake that I have played before. I'm judging this original version on its own merit specifically. The main premise that Raccoon City is suddenly overtaken by zombies, with the one safe haven, the Raccoon City Police Department, also being completely overrun and everything, so it's up to our two main characters or to figure out what's going on, with Claire Redfield being here in order to search for her brother, Chris Redfield from the first game, and Leon S. Kennedy, who is a newbie police officer that is here on his first day, but was late to work and is now dealing with a zombie invasion. This game is told through two scenarios, where you have to pick who will be the A scenario and who will be the B scenario, with the idea that both scenarios essentially come together to tell one narrative, but you get to choose which of the characters go through it, with the PS1 version having 2 discs for the characters, and this GOG port also on boot up, asking you which character you are loading up, Claire or Leon, with my playthrough being based on Claire A and Leon B, which is the canonical path, but hey, beat that, you still got Leon A and Claire B as another choice. For the two scenarios, the characters are still for the most part exploring the same locales, especially when it comes to the RPD. They're still exploring the same locations and even doing the same puzzles for the most part, but instead it's just more the A person is seeing stuff get introduced, like the liquor everything, while the B scenario may see other things get introduced, such as some parts of the RPD being destroyed, or some stuff that are added into the B scenario made to shake things up after you've already completed the A scenario, just to make sure that you are getting complacent, because Resident Evil does not enjoy you getting complacent. Right off the bat, when I mention about both characters, it's the fact of the way some people talk about them, making it seem as if they're two regular Joe Schmoes in a scenario, when just like how Resident Evil 1 had their STARS units who are trained police officers, Leon is still a trained police officer even if he's not a member of STARS. Yeah, it's his first day, but it's not as if he's suddenly some slouch with a weapon, not at all.
No! What's up with that guy? That was a clean hit.
And Claire being trained by Chris, who you can find in RPD, is apparently the best marksman in the RPD as well and has trophies for it. So like I said, not that these two are two regular Joe Schmo scenario, I guess in the sense of like whole entire rookie cop on his first day and this traveling woman just ended up being involved in this mess. But it's one of those things that they are far from just two regular people in a different situation. They are capable of handling things going on, even what's going on is something no man should be capable of, because zombies. One thing this game notes that despite everything that happened in Resident Evil 1 and the proof the STARS members had, in order to highlight the things that Umbrella did in the Arkham Mansion, essentially no one believed them because they couldn't definitively prove everything, and essentially all their concerns got swept away, with them trying to find other ways. This is why they are not involved in this journey, despite the fact that you are going through the RPD and even find their offices and everything in their desks. Leon and Claire do have companion characters that they will meet throughout their journey, but it's the fact that with the scenario system, the stuff that plays out will differ depending depending on which scenario you're doing for the A or B. That's the main difference, is that these aren't like big companions in the same way of, let's say, Resident Evil 1 had with Barry and Rebecca, but they are characters that they will meet and events will differ depending on their scenario, which is why it really factors in who you want to do first and then leave left for the B scenario. Claire gets to meet Sherry and Leon gets to meet Ada, with Sherry trying to look for her parents and came to the RPD because it was supposed to be the safe haven from this mess, and Ada being here searching for her boyfriend John, who was a character mentioned in notes and files from the first game, so it's cool that they brought that back and added this one entire aspect to a character of, hey, this person who was a victim and went missing in the first game, here's someone who cares about them, now looking for them to figure out what happened. Overall, I do enjoy the narrative experience, like I said, with Claire A, Leon B, although there are some things that don't add up, like the fact that there are some scenarios they try to explain how it happened, but instead it's just a case of characters having two things happen, I guess both happen. Like, there's just one bit, for example, where there's this helicopter that somehow crashed in our RPD that, as Claire, I put out, but as Leon, I also had to put out, but Leon had the cutscene introducing it, and for some reason it's just weird how both these characters apparently both put out a fire with a helicopter for somehow with the same method kind of thing, or the fact that, for this instance, Claire got a cutscene introducing a new enemy type called the Lickers, but Leon doesn't. The Lickers is already here, and he has to already deal with them and everything. There are moments where the characters meet up, and they do talk to each other over radio, but it's just one of those things where it feels like despite the idea that they're supposed to be going through the RPD at the same time, it just doesn't really feel like they're going to the RPD at the same time, and like I can't really pick out the timeline of events of what's happening, especially when it comes to the gameplay that we should get into now. Resident Evil 2, the first game, is also a third-person shooter with tank controls, with the big difference being the fact that movement just feels smoother in this game, and the fact that this game, in order to try and keep tensions high, throws way more enemies at you at one time compared to the first game, but also has way more open areas you can go through, making so you can take the chance of risking trying to run by these enemies or just try and take them out, but you'll be putting a lot of ammo on them. I also like the fact that this time when a character gets grabbed, they actually push the zombie off of them, which not only can just push them back, it can also sometimes completely knock over the zombie, giving you more of a chance to get past them and potentially knock down other people and stuff like that. So there are changes to the gameplay that just really help things out, and honestly I'm surprised the characters in the first game didn't push over zombies like that when they got them off of them. You also have, once again, unique weapons that both characters get, such as the fact that Claire has the bowgun, especially early on, that's a really cool weapon, but then there's stuff later on like Leon getting a Magnum that I don't think Claire does, and if she did, I never found it. But Leon got the Magnum, so there are still unique weapons for each character to have, even with the whole scenario system going on and everything. And speaking of which, when it comes to scenario system, there's supposed to be a zapping system mechanic where certain things the A character does will affect the B character, such as the fact that the A character can try and board up some windows that will make it so the other windows break and the B character has to deal with it, or it'll eventually short out. Or the fact that for this one instance, I managed to find some extra goodies, at the game prompted me saying, hey, you should probably leave something here for Leon to come get later, and stuff like that. And then I never got his Leon, oops. But it's one of those things where it's meant to highlight what the first character does will affect the adventure of the second character. My issue with the zapping system is just the fact that it's very specific on what will affect each character, so it's not nearly as essentially expansive as the fanbase kind of makes it out to be. But it's just one of those things where it's a cool addition I wish they did more with, but the fact that it's very situational what it is. Like, it's not like, for example, oh, I found ammo here, and now Leon won't. No, because when I did it as Leon, I found ammo in the same place as Claire did, even some places that were purposely off-screen to make it a hidden goodie, but Leon will still find the same thing there anyway, so it's not as if you can't screw over the B character completely, is what I'm trying to say. They'll always still have a very good fighting chance, with me having plenty of resources for each of the characters in my playthrough to comfortably go through the game. The zapping system is one of those mechanics that on paper sounds really cool, but you kind of have to really look up what are the full effects of it and everything, because of the fact that otherwise it doesn't really feel like it's doing a whole lot, and I just wish it was more expanded upon, whether it be a later title or whatever, anything. But as far as I'm aware, this is the only entry to have a mechanic like this, and it's such a cool idea, especially with the whole entire 2 scenarios forming one whole story. I mentioned earlier there are some scenarios that play out somehow for both characters, and one character's introduction and the character does it. This also heavily goes for gameplay, where the fact that when you get to scenario B, you basically know the majority of the puzzle solutions, because you'll just be doing the same thing. You'll start out slightly differently, but otherwise what you do for the most part in the RPD will have the exact same solutions, and sometimes give you the exact same items somehow. Other times you get a different item for the character to progress. This is one of those things where, shouldn't this already have been done by the A scenario character? Or even stuff like, shouldn't all the doors be opened by the A scenario characters by this point? Like, it's one of those things that just feels like wasn't really fully implemented when it came to the whole zapping system and horse scenario, because of the fact that the characters, the locale, doesn't really seem to reflect it fully, only in certain instances, which is my gripe, the fact that you will still have overlap. The story itself will not overlap, it's not as if characters will be in 2 places at once kind of thing, but it's just one of those things where gameplay-wise, things will still overlap and everything, and the fact that you're still doing a lot of the same stuff when it comes to scenario B. When it comes to new enemy types in this game, honestly, I didn't really think much of them. Like, the Lickers are early on introduced, supposed to be this big new threat, but they're so easy to avoid that are not really an actual threat. Only time they're a threat is when the game has to basically put you in a room with 3 of them at once, because then they could easily just block your pathway and prevent you from moving forward. But it's one of those things where, just like the zombies, the Lickers aren't much of a threat unless they come in a group, and for the time, you're just dealing with one Licker. I do like a neat detail you can do in order to help you try and get past them. It won't be guaranteed to work, but it's one of the neat little things you can do for the Lickers. That's a cool detail, but for what's supposed to be a big new threat, they're basically the same thing as zombies. Unless they're in a group, not gonna do much to you. There's also this brief moment where you're going through the sewers in both scenario that honestly is kind of a this segment just kind of exists kind of moment for me, because I don't know, there's not really much you do in the sewers, and the enemies being big spiders that I won't show, and whoever is the son of a bitch that made the spiders crawl on the camera, I hate you. But it's not that all you have there to go against the spiders, and the spiders weren't a threat in the first game, and they're not a threat here, kind of thing. Unless the goal was to just make me freaking terrified because I don't like spiders. I mean, mission accomplished, but they didn't hit me or anything. It just kind of feels like this very compact place that I'm essentially going in a loop because my inventory was full, but to go back and get the key item, I had to loop around back, and I just look goofy, and the spiders probably think I'm looking stupid right now. You also have the boss encounters that, honestly, just in the first game, they just kind of exist, because they're not really all that threatening, especially with how easy it is, at least for me, to essentially just have the characters stacked up with the most powerful weapons and the ammo for it. Like, Leon, I have plenty of magnum shots and shotgun shells, and for Claire, I'm gonna have plenty of grenades for the grenade launcher, so it's stuff that's like, these boss fights just don't really stand a chance against them, especially when it comes to Leon, who can get upgrades for his weapons. I'm not sure if Claire can, or found any, but for Leon, I'm able to find upgrades for his pistol and his magnum, making them even more deadlier, and it's like, The dude's already a walking army, and now he's even deadlier. Get over here, zombies. Come over here. Come over here. Come a piece of this. I can also see why, with just how many enemies they throw at you and everything in this game, I can see why people say this is essentially the first entry where Resident Evil started going more into the action horror aspects, because of the fact that they want you doing combat way more. Or play scenarios where trying to avoid combat, well, it is an option, may not be a recommended option. I do appreciate there are a lot of secret hidden goodies to get, some of which do involve using the zapping system, but I can just kind of forget to do that and forget. So I did set up for an extra goodie in scenario A and then just forgot to pay off scenario B twice, kind of thing. But it is cool that you can get extra goodies that are optional to help you in your adventure that the scenario A person could set up, or could just double up and take for themselves, kind of thing. So there's a lot of optional stuff you can get to help with the characters and everything you feel like you don't have enough in it. There's plenty of secrets in this game, even an extra secret that the game tells you about after you've already beaten the game. So they just love including bonus stuff that is super cool to have. This game is from a different era in all the best ways. There's also extra modes to this game, such as Arrange mode, which in this version specifically rearranges the item locations throughout the game. I know that during the PS1 version, Arrange mode for the localized version was just essentially an easy mode with overpowered weapons, unlimited ammo, but here it's the Japanese version where it's just an arrange mode, and it actually allows you to select difficulty option that I didn't get when I just played the original regular game. You also have Extreme Battle, that's also unlocked by default in this version of the game, which tasks you with looking around, looking for essentially bomb locations, and you can play as several characters and explore around the place for extra goodies to use during the mode as well. There's also Tofu, where you essentially play as tofu, a big piece of tofu. I know it's actually just a hitbox, but shut up. It's tofu, have fun, imagination, where you're tasked with trying to escape the RPD. You also have the Fourth Survivor, where you also play as Hunk trying to escape it, with Tofu mode essentially just being a different version of the Fourth Survivor and everything. So there's a lot of stuff in this game, a lot of which is unlocked from the start on the PC version, which I am playing. Overall, I not only greatly enjoyed Resident Evil 2, I liked it more in the first game. Especially helps that the RPD doesn't really feel as big as, let's say, the Arklay Mansion, where that one had been going back and forth to the same locales, or forgetting where each pathway went by the map. And speaking of which, the map in this game got updated, where when you find the map of a locale, it also tells you which door requires which key as well, which is so handy, and I'm glad they added that in. Just one of those things where I think only like twice ever I had to actually look something up when it came to something I was missing, compared to the first game. I looked up a few times and a whole lot. But I just found this game easier to go through and more understanding of, okay, I got this, now we can take this and go here. Ooh, I have this, and I can go back here. Or, oh, Leon starts with this, I'm gonna take this, and stuff like that. It was easier for me to figure out when it came to this one. On top of the fact that the segments we have to use your ally characters are very short and not frequent, so it can be a bit disappointed they don't add a whole lot to the gameplay experience with like Sherry and Ada, but they, like I said, they do have their own segments. Each segments are essentially in the same locales for as both characters, just slightly different depending on which character you're using and everything. As I gotta say, Resident Evil 2 is just way better, and honestly now, I prefer this version over the remake we got. Remake I still like, but just like this version just impressed me more with stuff, even if some things I wish were more further built upon the zapping system. So gotta say, good day.